is a hateful supremacy movement based on the belief that women are disadvantaged as compared to men, that this is a societal problem and that it needs to be fixed.
By any means necessary.
You didn't exist. You don't exist. You're not there.
Do you feel a particular responsibility, Ava, because you're a woman, to get involved in all this?
Well, I've noticed that in this society, women do have a bigger voice. So when I noticed the things that happened all around the world, I thought I have to do something. I have to speak out and share the things that I've witnessed and the corruption in society at the moment. I need to talk about it, at least. Because I've noticed that there are a lot of men that try to help men, and they, exactly like Philip said, if they are role models, so to speak, they have a really good impact on men. They really need to hear this. But if you would like to go bigger, most of the people tend to listen to women, and that's just the thing. That's just something that is happening nowadays. So indeed, yes, I think that especially because I'm a woman, need to speak out about this, because women tend to be heard more.
I think, to respond to what Philip was saying, that a lot of men do need to hear it from men, but they won't accept it from men until they've heard it from a woman first. Like if a woman starts them on this journey, they can then start listening to men. But I know personally that, you know, if I hadn't been started on this journey by people like Karen Strawn, I might not have taken it seriously, because there's such a, you know, that in society that there's such a fear of misogyny, that if a man comes out and says, well, you know, men are going through this and women have this over men, etc., there's a huge temptation to just say, well, this man's clearly a misogynist. It's only when a woman says that you think, well, maybe she's right, because why would she be saying this otherwise?
Yes, if you're talking about men and women around the world that are do not have any experience in this field or haven't witnessed anything related to false accusations against men or parental fraud or parental alienation, if they haven't seen this, then you might be right. They might listen to a woman first and then get into they want to listen to men as well. But I think that the men that are the victims, they usually listen to men first, because they are already at the stage that they don't trust a woman anymore, which I completely understand. So it's vitally important for those men to listen to men, tell them what's happening, and how to cope with it, and how to deal with women around them. So it's very important for men to have a man space where they can talk without a woman, and it's very important for another part to listen to women and to get that voice heard. I
think on certain issues we prefer listening to men, and sorry, I mean society, I don't mean specific to gender politics. On certain issues we want to hear it from a man, and on certain issues we want to hear it from a woman. So like when it comes to, you know, for example, 80% of people would prefer that their pilot was a man. You know, when it comes to very specific like roles of, you know, someone who is responsible for life and death, quite often people feel more comfortable if it's a man, because they have a natural feeling that men are more decisive, men are more willing to sacrifice themselves, you know, these kinds of inbuilt ideas. And when it comes to issues of compassion, of emotion, of sympathy, we want to hear it from a woman, because women can really pull at our heartstrings. And I wanted to ask Martha, are there any men that you know who have personally gone through these kinds of emotional ordeals?
Well, I must say that at the moment, I have a friend of mine in London that is getting, unfortunately, abused physically and mentally by his own wife. And I had several conversations with him, and it was interesting to hear from him. Well, on one side, I was happy that he trusted me enough to share that with me as a woman. But at the same time, he mentioned that unfortunately he doesn't trust women anymore, and he actually, because of course he's planning to divorce his wife, and he told me that imagining his future, he at this moment he cannot see another woman in his life, just for the fact how hurt he's been by his own wife. And I was trying to explain him that, well, you know, I understand what you feel, because I mean, it takes time before you see the bright side, when you realize that you've been just surrounded by negative people. And the sad thing that this negative person is the person that's supposed to be the closest to you. But yeah, I must say that I understand the point why hurt men trust more women in this case. And actually, I was surprised why he came to me to talk about his issue. And I must say that in a way, I was very happy that he contacted me, because I can show him another aspect of femininity, and that we are not this, you know, bloody monster that wants to take away everything from men, money, dignity, children, everything. So I wish him all the best, and I hope that whoever is listening this podcast at the moment can hear that there are women that are willing to support men in need. And actually, I just wanted to ask Ava, what's people's reaction when they hear from you that you are a men's rights activist as a woman? How women react and how men react to that?
Well, a lot of my friends don't even know what I'm doing, because I think that a lot of my friends are either feminists or are biased. I think they don't want to hear it. I've tried to explain a little bit what I'm doing to a couple of friends of mine, but I noticed their reaction. They don't know. And I think that because most of my friends are from Holland, I got the feeling a little bit that they're just not ready for another opinion on this matter. But because I'm making the videos digitally, I got a lot of response either from women and from men that are very appreciative. And I didn't get a lot of backlash at the moment. I didn't get many feminists hate mail or anything. I got a few, but not too bad. Most of the people are just very happy, or very, even men and women that didn't know about this. They email me and they tell me that they're happy and that they are glad that they heard something about it. So overall, I'd say that at this moment it's quite positive. But not in my personal space. I think not in my friends. My family supports me, and then I've kind of red-pilled them a little bit, so they yes. But I think it's very difficult for people that have not witnessed this, because a lot of the things that I tell them that I've witnessed are so absurd that you just don't believe it. So when I was speaking with my mother, for example. She didn't know anything about this, but her initial reaction usually is, "Wow, that's not possible. The law and everything they're doing just. There's nothing wrong with it." So it's very hard to believe it. I think that's the problem with many people around the world, that they really, if you hear it, you think that's just nonsense. That one person that you're talking about was just bad. He was bad, so, and they just don't want to listen to it anymore. But overall, it was very, very, very positive. I'm happy.
That's the problem, I think. If like if a woman hurts a man, she hurts that man, whereas if a man hurts a woman, he hurts all women. There's a kind of, collectivism there. But I wanted to ask all four of you, to each say, who do you personally feel it's harder to reach, men or women? Who do you feel it's harder to explain all this to?
Do you mean the men and women that are not in this movement yet, that they don't know about this?
Blue pilled, who is harder to red pill, men or women?
Sorry. Ladies
no,
first.
you go, Philip. I insist.
Okay,
we're non-gun Eccentrik here.
I think men, deep down, they know what's going on. So for me, when I talk to men, they kind of know what's going on. Not the full spectrum, but they know some of it, but they don't take it seriously. So even though they know what's going on, they don't do anything about it because they think that's just the way it is and men just have to take it. And if you don't take it, then you're a pussy. And women, because women are more willing to talk about certain sensitive subject, I think because women are more likely to be feminist leaning, it's hard to reach certain women, but the ones that you can reach, they listen better and they are more engaged, where the men try to ignore it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that that's a really tough call to make, to say, is it men or is it women? If I had to make a generalization about who is more difficult to reach, like as some kind of collective demographic, I would say people who are left-leaning are a lot more difficult to reach than people who are right-leaning. But, even that's not a hard and fast rule. And I've had, my experience has been quite unlike yours, actually, Ava, because I hid what I was up to and what I thought from all my mum friends at school for like a few years. And then I just kind of had enough, and I was getting closer to them, but I was withholding one of the most important parts of myself. And, that's just pointless in a way, isn't it? It's like you're really good friends, except you really don't know me at all because I'm not telling you who I am. So I started kind of drip feeding these women bits about what I thought. And I actually started by, like, when we'd go out for a drink all together, back before COVID, in the good old days, I started prompting debates on kind of feminism, but on issues that related to women. So, it would be about the burqa ban in Denmark, or it would be about, the grid girls all getting fired because feminists thought they were too pretty and stuff like that. And then, I started talking about men's and boys' issues. And I vividly remember the first time I just started working for Justice for Men and Boys and the Women Who Love Them as the Director of Communications. And I was out with two friends who I, was particularly close to. And I was like, I can't just not mention it. So I mentioned it to one. And she said, oh, right, okay, so what kind of issues do you cover? And I started saying, our primary campaigning issue at the time was on male genital mutilation. And then she jumped in and said, I think the most important issue is the father's rights one. And I was like, me too. It was so good. And then, we went to the pub shortly after that, and we started talking about the Me Too movement. And they were saying, it's so good that these survivors are able to tell their stories and all this. And then I kind of, I listened, and then I kind of said, yeah, but, isn't there another side? And kind of, put the other side, defended men, talked about how if allegations are true, they should be tried in court, not in the court of public opinion. And that I thought actually a lot of the allegations might not be true, and that it's imperiling men, and that men are literally committing suicide. The Me Too movement, the movement with a body count. And then the next day in the playground, one of them said to me, I went home last night and had a conversation with my partner, and about the Me Too movement, and he said, he suddenly felt kind of listened to, and he felt more comfortable and confident, and they felt like the relationship had improved. And so it's actually been really positive for me. On the other hand, my mother is a total feminist. I shared a tweet that some woman had put out that said, "What turned you into a feminist?" a while back. And my mum tweeted back to her and me, "Anti-feminists. I had to know what I wasn't before I knew what I was." So it's literally the opposite for me as compared to you, Ava. My family, at least on my side, are not even slightly red-pilled, unfortunately. But my friends are quite open to hearing about what's going on. So are you talking about women who do have children and partners and stuff like that, or are you talking about younger women?
I'm talking about, it doesn't matter. It's just either they're moms of or just women in general around me. Though most of the friends are from Holland, and they just don't know about it. They know about the feminist side. And they are so even though they don't particularly call themselves feminists, they know about it. They hear it on the news, they see it on the movies, they know. So they start to talk about that more often. If I talk about, for example, men's issues, they tend to want to listen. Yes, they want to listen. But as soon as it's about women that are doing this to men, they feel offended, as if they are the ones that are doing it. So that's really a little bit of my experience. They try to counter my words by saying, well, there are a lot of men that hit their wife and they get away with it. Things like that just do not make sense. So women, in my opinion, I think women are a little bit more difficult to reach. But men that are blue-pilled, very hard as well. I think it's very difficult to say men or women are more difficult to reach, because men, just like Philip said, they want to listen, but they don't do anything about it. It's just because I think it is really difficult in any subject around the world. It doesn't matter if it has to be with men's issues or women's issues. It's really difficult to reach people that have not seen it close. And that's why I think in my situation, my mother, for example, is now, I can safely say, completely red-pilled, because she saw what happened to my partner, and so I think that helps in a way to show her that the things that I said that initially she didn't believe because it hurt, when I just show her that it really did happen. And I cannot believe it either, but it did happen, and that made her see that there are some flaws in the law, and it might be true what I'm saying. Friends are not that involved in my life, I think, to see that it's really true what I'm talking about.
I think that I have to disagree with one point where you're saying that if men didn't see it, they can't believe it. I think even if they see it, they can't believe it because they have been conditioned, or we have been conditioned to think that violence against men is okay, or is less bad as violence against women. I had a customer a couple of days ago, and she was an NHS nurse. And while I was treating her, I was talking to her, and she started a new job with mental health. And I said, oh, could you maybe, when you start working in mental health and the more important you become, can you please also focus on man's mental health? And then we started this great conversation. And she said that at a family party, a relative of her was showing the scratches on his body that were left from his wife, and they were bloody scratches. He lifted up his shirt, and the man at the party, they were laughing, and she wasn't saying anything, but she was thinking, that's horrible. If a woman would show her bruises or her wounds, everybody would be up in arms. So I think we men have the tendency to not take these things seriously, and it's part of our biological genetic programming, but it's not up to date with today's society.